Hello everyone, in this tutorial let's see how to use bulk insert and bulk update in Mule under the file connector module. So in the first part of this video tutorial series we created a sample database. We installed MySQL and Postgres and we created a database to play with. The database name is Northwind and it has different tables as you can see here. So if you want to follow along in this tutorial, I would recommend going to this part, interacting with databases in Mule for part 1, getting data to practice with. So after that we saw getting data using URI parameters, query parameters and headers. And in part 3 we saw about data insertion, updating and deletion using URI parameters, query parameters and headers. And in part 4 we saw how to fetch data from multiple sources using scatter gather. And in the previous one we saw how to use first successful router for high availability. So in this one let's see bulk insert and bulk update. So go to Anypoint Studio, create a Mule project, call it bulk insert and update. So if we go to the file module, we have, so first thing, let's get back to our database. So we have this database that we created and it has different tables. Let's export the data from here and then see if we can insert the data in bulk at once. So I think in the previous tutorials, in some of the tutorials, we saw how to insert data to the database using for each inserters, each row separately. But in this tutorial, we want to see how we can insert in bulk. So let's have some data. Let's export data from here. Which one is? Let's, for example, export customer. How many columns does it have? I want to export a table that has less number of columns. Okay, maybe employee. How many columns does it have? Oh, a lot. Employee territory, order detail. Okay, let's export this order detail and go to table data export wizard and export all these columns. Actually we can even export only the columns of interest. So export, and let's export it to, I have a tutorial folder here. So tutorials, interacting with databases, bulk insert and update, and the file name. What is the table that we are? The table name that we are exporting. Sorry, I have to get back and see what the table is. Order detail. Okay, so we are exporting order detail. Export all columns to this location, and I will call it order detail. We want to export it as CSV. You can export it as CSV or JSON, and we can specify the separator. Let's make it tab separated. For example, click next, export. So let's see if we have sample data to insert now. If I go to tutorials, bulk insert and update data. So I have this data. I can open it with Notepad++, and as you can see, it is tab separated and it has these columns. Now let's see if we can read this in, and rather than using for each and inserting each row one at a time, let's see if we can use bulk insert. So let's go to Mule into Endpoint Studio and drag and drop the read operation under the file module. So file, we have read. Okay, read is here. Then it needs a source, so we can put a scheduler here. Drag and drop scheduler so that it triggers it. So let's make this every 5 seconds, and let's get back to the read operation and specify the configuration. So my working directory is where the data resides, so it is this one, and the file path is the file name. So if I go here, it is in here. So this is the file, the full file path, and I can go to MIME type here, and I specify the data type. It is CSV, and I have to add here, since it is tab separated, not the default separator, not comma, but rather tab separator. So separated. So I can specify the separator here. Go here and make this tab separated, and so okay. Now let's add a logger here. Go to core and add a logger, or even we can add a transform message first. So see, let's transform the data to, let's transform it to JSON and have the payload here. Let's see what the data looks like, if it is parsing it appropriately. So add a breakpoint here, and let's run this in debug mode. So once this data transformation, once we confirm that it is done appropriately, then we are going to connect it to the database and create it to and insert it to a table. Okay, so it is starting. Okay, so here is the data. As you can see, our interest is the payload. So if I click payload here, we see the object is, we have one object. This corresponds to one row. So we have order detail ID, order ID, product ID, unit price, quantity, and discount. So this is one row, one object. We have array of objects, another object here, and so on. So this confirms that the data transformation is appropriate, and we can use a bulk insert. So now let me get back to design perspective, and here let's create another table under the Northwind database. So here use Northwind, then we are going to create a table. So we exported, the data we exported is order detail, and from part one of when we created this tables and data, we have the script that we use it to create the tables and insert data. So I can see the schema for order detail from here. Order detail, it has these columns, so I can just run this and create another table rather than order detail. We are going to insert the data we exported to this other table. So let's call it order detail bulk insert. So run this. We have, so here what we see is a different columns in the table. So if we run this, now it is going to create another table for us. And if I refresh this now, refresh and go to tables, refresh this, order detail, bulk insert is here, and here are the columns, but it doesn't have any data. So if I deselect star from that table, as you can see there are no rows. But now let's see if we can insert the data in bulk, the whole of it just at once, rather than connecting to the database again and again using for each. Let's see if we can use bulk insert. So go here and go to databases module. We have bulk insert and bulk update and bulk delete. So in this tutorial we are going to see bulk insert and bulk update. So bulk insert, let's bring it and put it here, choose the recent version, and the connection bulk insert into my SQL is the display name. I have to configure it, create the connection here. So the connection type is my SQL connection. Then we add Maven dependency for the required libraries. Add Maven dependency here, and this one, if you just click finish, it should be good. Then here the host is localhost, port is 3306, user is root, and the database is Northwind, and my password is this tutorial password. Bring it and put it here. Let me test the connection. Okay, connection successful. Now what we just do is this payload, we want to insert it to that table. So what we have to do is insert into the table name, which is, where is the table name? The table name is order detail, bulk insert. Then we need the columns. The columns, I can copy them from here. Copy names, bring them here. I don't need this string, I have to remove these quotes. So we specify the columns, and then we specify the values for each column. So the values in this case, they come from the payload, and how we can access that is just by, since we have name key value pairs from the payload, we just do colon the key name or the key, and then that will access the key value. So here, for example, colon order detail ID, it is going to search for in the payload, it is going to search for this key and get its value. So that value will be inserted to the database. So we do like this, here also like this, the same way here. So if I do like this, now I think I should be good. Let me remove, I don't need this payload, I mean this logger, delete it. So this is it. Let me save this. So as I showed here, there is no data here. Oh, order detail bulk. Okay, is it inserting data already? Oh, this is running already. Okay. Yeah, I see. Yeah, because it was running, so that it started inserting data to it. Okay, so let me stop this and I will just rerun it and make sure this table doesn't have any data. So delete, let me delete any records from this table. Now if I do select star on the table, I should not get it. Didn't delete it. Okay, or we can just delete this drop table and recreate it. Now refresh here, so this table is there. Now if I run this, there is no data there. Good. And the data we exported is here. Let's say we want to, so we just to read it only, we don't want it to be inserted more than one time. So let's change this to hours so that it doesn't insert it again like this scheduler. Okay, so what we have done here, let's see. We are using the read operation from the file module. We gave it the complete path and working directory. This scheduler, it is going to schedule at fixed frequencies, and if there is new data coming in, then it will read and insert the data. But for now, we'll just insert this file using the bulk insert and also update it. We are not inserting kind of continuously coming data. It is just one data file. Okay, so now let me run this. And as I showed you here, there is no data here. We do here, no data. It should insert the whole of it at once using bulk insert, so it doesn't need. So the advantage with this one is we don't need to insert each row separately, and we don't need to make multiple sequential connections to the database. So okay, so if we come here, it is deploying. So until it completes the deployment, so what we did here is we did the connection configuration here, and the operation from the database module that we are using is bulk insert. Then this is SQL query text that we need. So insert into the table name that we created. We specify the columns and their values. The values will come from the payload, and we check that the payload is an array of objects, and each object has key value pairs, and the keys are this one. So we can access the value of the keys of the objects using their keys like this. So let's see, now it is deployed. So if we come here, the data should be inserted already now. So if we run it again, you see the data has been inserted already. So 623 records. If we come here, this should have 623 rows. Scroll down I see here 2156. Okay, why did I see? I guess what I can do is get the count of the records here as count. So if I run this, 1168. So the bulk insert, maybe it has not completed yet. Yeah, it has not completed yet. I see it is writing, it is inserting the data still, so we have to give it some time. As you can see, it is increasing. 1388, 1445, and so on. So at the end, when it completes, the number of records in the table should be 2155. So you see, it is very easy to use the bulk insert in Mule4, and it is more efficient because we don't use for each. If we come to database module, and if we have to use insert, then we have to use for each if we have to insert each row separately into the table. But with the bulk insert and bulk update, it is this easy. So now the whole of the data has been inserted. So we said here in the original data we have 2155 rows, and if you go to MySQL and run this code that gets count of rows from the table, it gives us 2155. So this is how we do bulk insertion. Now let's see how to do bulk update. So I have opened the data here, and I will change the discount, let's say to so as you can see, discounts, some of them are 0, some of them are 10%, some of them are 15%, some are 25%, and so on. So let's make all of them, for example, just 10% discount. So this one, 0.1, 0.1, so everything now, as you can see, my discount is 10%, and let me save this as a different file. So order detail update. So if we do like that, okay, now what we do is, let's go to here and let me stop this and clear this. What I need to change here is this one, the file. I want the file to point to the other file, to the new one, which is this one. Save. Transformation is fine. This one also, the bulk insert, I want to remove it and change it by bulk update and bring it here. So bulk update, the same connection we did before. Okay, and database was wind, and password is here, test connection. Perfect. So we just want to do update for why is this showing down here? Okay, it expects the SQL query text. So for updating, you will use this. As you can see, update here, update the table name, and then we set some columns to some values followed by where condition. So let's get back to here, and our table name was we want to update this table. So come here, update this table, and set I think it was the column name is discount, discount to the new discounts that is in the payload, where what are the IDs we have? We have these IDs, so let me copy them from here. Order detail ID. Okay, So we just want to update the last column discount in this case based on the IDs. So copy, I am copying the column names and pasting them here. Where order ID detail is the value from the payload, and order ID also the same way is order ID from the payload, and product ID is also product ID from the payload. So the colon order ID is the key, the order ID key in the payload, so it will give us its corresponding value. This code helps us to access to get its corresponding value. So okay, so here what we have done is update the table. And what are we updating? The discount. We want to change it to new discount based on this. So by the way, the discount in here, I just made it the same thing, 10% for all of them, but it could be different per order ID, product ID, order detail ID. So that's why we are specifying in the where clause here these details. So if I save this now and let me show you the distinct of order ID I have here. So here what we can do is distinct of discount, I mean discount order by discount. So let's see the different discount values we have here. We have from 0 to 25. Now when we update it, everything should be 10% because everything we changed it to 10%. Okay, so let's get back to here and run this. So once it deploys, we are going to run the count of the distinct of discounters from the table, and it should give us just 0.1 only. So everything will be updated using bulk update rather than just updating each one of them row by row using for each. If we use bulk update, it becomes much easier. So you see also we have bulk delete. It is similar to bulk update. So if we go to W3C, here it's delete. For bulk delete also we do delete from table name where some conditions are fulfilled. So if we want to delete some IDs, delete from our table where we add the where condition with the different IDs if that we want to delete. So this one, it has deployed, but it is giving some error message. What is it saying? Discount which has not supplied an input parameter. Oh, this needs input parameter is what it is saying. Okay, so this has not changed yet. It means since it didn't work. Okay, let us come here and modify here. So what it is saying is discount. Do I have typo here? Discount is discount order detail ID, order detail ID, order ID. Okay, let's go to the console. Discount which was not supplied as an input parameter. Okay, let's add a logger. Let's go to core here and add a logger here in between and add a breakpoint to see the payload. maybe the column names are slightly different, or there could be something is happening. Okay, so stop this and run it in debug mode, so that we can see what it is doing, what the payload that comes to there looks like. Usually when there is some error, adding a logger and running it, adding a logger and a breakpoint and running it in debugger mode really helps. Okay, let's see what the transformation is going to do. The file is there. This is the file, so it should read it. Did we say after scheduler is start delay is 0, so it should be reading it now. Let's give it a sec. Okay, here it comes. So if we see the payload, we see how it is reading it here. Oh, this looks different from, yeah, here I see here. Okay, now the second time when I saved it from here, it saved it as comma separated, I think, by default. So rather than tab, I have to specify my separator as comma. So it was not appropriately reading it. The transformation was not doing it the right way because of that. So you see, this is just one long string. So we come to our read operation. Let's okay, let me stop this and come to design view, read operation, come to MIME type. Yes, it is CSV file, but the separator is comma. Now it should work fine. So save this. Actually, I didn't need. Okay, again, let's run it in debug mode again. So okay, now let's see if the payload is an array of objects where each object is a row in the CSV file, and it has key value pairs because we want to access the values using the keys. Okay, so let's give it a couple of seconds. Data is there. Okay, here it comes. Now if we see the payload, as you can see, now it transforms it appropriately. We have the keys and the values, so it should work fine now. I have rerun it and it has deployed, so it is going to bulk update the data in the table, and we are going to check if the discount is just unique 10% throughout. It may need some time until it does the updating. Let's see if I run this, how many unique discount values we have. Still the same thing. Okay, I think now it should have completed the update. So what we have done here is we changed the discount column, which we made it just 10%, but it can be different values per IDs, per order ID, order detail ID, order ID, product ID. Then we can have the different discount values. That's how we have written the code here. So in this update SQL query text, what we have done is update order, the table name here, order detail bulk insert update. Yeah, that is the table. Now we are updating. We called it bulk insert because we were just inserting first. So we are setting the discount, the value for discount. It is going to get it from this payload using the discount key. So here we are just specific. This means get the value of get the value of the discount key from this payload, and where we are specifying is a where clause here that order detail ID, order ID, and product ID should match what is there in the payload. So this is how we do bulk update. Now let's go back to Workbench and see if it has updated the different values. So as you can see here, before when we did distinct count, distinct values of this count, it showed us these values. Now when we run this, it should just show 10% because we have updated everything if it has completed. So run this. So you see, this is just 0.1 or 10%. That is what we put here. So everything has been updated. So this is how we do bulk update and bulk insert. There is also bulk delete, which should be the same. It's very similar to bulk update.